Hey everyone, this is Darren. I have had a little realization today and I wanted to share it with you. And I'm going to show you what I hope is going to be some really helpful little tidbits that you can start to collect and add to your arsenal. So here's the deal. This whole summer, I've been attending virtual meetings like all summer, and I've been attending virtual meetings with a bunch of professional educators and people who are deeply involved in this process of helping FCPS figure out how we're going to um, do this virtual learning stuff. And they've been using some great tools in the meetings, and I want to show them to you. So I'm going to use this meeting slide deck that I had from a meeting that was today. And I'm just going to show it to you because there's a bunch of great little ideas in there. So here's the title slide. So here's what I'm suggesting to you. I'm suggesting to you that one way, just one way, to structure your class session could be through a slide deck like this one, okay? Here's the key. You create the slide deck. You have to share the slide deck with your students, give them edit privileges for some of the things that I'm going to show you here, and you would have them join your Blackboard Collaborate session, which is what we're recording through right now, and open the slide deck so that they can kind of go back and forth, right? So here's the deal. You start your class, you say hi to everyone as the time for the class opens. Let me tell it in terms of how this meeting went, okay? The person who organized this meeting had set up 2 blank slides, and the only thing on this slide was this prompt at the top. Right? Insert text box and share a book or article that's pushed your thinking this summer and why. Now, it's not important what this prompt is. The idea is simple. It's like, hi guys, welcome to class. To get started today, here's your warm-up question. Now go to a slide, pick one of the 2 slides that we have here. You can see over on the left that this is the same thing on slide 2 and 3. That gives room for everybody to work. If you need 3 or 4 slides for a bigger class, that's fine too. But then each of your students can just open this slide deck. You teach them how to do it, make sure that they can do these things and use these tools, and each of them can engage and participate, and so they're connecting in and actually having an impact in what they're actually seeing, what they're looking at as part of the class. This is just the warm-up though, right? So I hope that makes sense to you, and that's like strategy number 1, right? Give a grounding or a warm-up activity and actually have the students type onto the slide deck to do that. The next thing that this organizer did was to share today's outcomes. This is a very good practice for any class, not just a meeting, to say, here's what we're going to do today. After that, they jumped to the next slide. Here's where we start sharing content. And what they did here is that they shared a link to an article in this case. Now, this could be anything. Maybe there is an article you want your students to read. Maybe here's a website I want you to review. Maybe here's a document that I've put together that I want you to look at. The point is, I'm sharing some content with you here and going to give the instructions on what you should do. So in this particular case, they said, hey, we're going to give you 10 minutes to read this document, to read this article. And as you read, consider using this organizer that we've provided for you. Now, in this particular case, this was like a little personalized note taker that's been provided for us. And that note taker had a couple of questions on it. And the personalized note taker was set up as a link that made a copy for each individual person that make a copy thing. So that is one of another little tool or trick, right? The person who led the meeting put a timer on the page and said, okay, I'm going to turn off my mic now and I'm going to give you guys time to read. I'm going to set the timer. And so there's another cool little trick that's a very effective way of using a Blackboard meeting and a PowerPoint or Google Slides to direct what's happening as you go along. After those 10 minutes were up, we came back together and they talked about the next step. And that next step was going to be a breakout group. This was using breakout groups in Blackboard Collaborate. But the key here is that they gave us very clear instructions about what we're supposed to do during that breakout time. They talked to us about what we should do and we were very clear while we were all together and before they sent us into breakout groups. So that idea was simple. We were going to come together. We were going to talk about, here are the things that I thought about while I was reading that article. And then after we had that discussion, we were supposed to come up with some specific recommendations. Again, the content's not important. What's important is that they gave us strategies of what we were supposed to do. And here's the cool thing about this. They broke us into groups that after talking about the instructions, gave us how much time we were going to be in there. But the work that the groups do is on the very next slides. So we had 8 groups in this particular situation, and this organizer put 4 groups on slide 7 and 4 groups on slide 8, and they had already numbered the groups. So any want to organize your groups, whether they're random breakout groups, or you could say, color code them. We do all kinds of fun color coding and naming in our classrooms all the time anyway. And you say, so group 5 is going to type into the group 5 box and group 8 types into the group 8 box. If they need more space than this, give each group a whole slide if you want. Those things work really well also. So in having this structure that's right here on this slide presentation, you can actually watch your students engage in what they're supposed to be doing. And then when you come back together, each group should have some outcomes from that time that they had. So again, another really effective way, dependent, of course, on giving your students that editing privilege to this slide deck, but a really effective approach. So when we came back together, they started sharing some new information, kind of shifted gears. And I'm just clicking through this because basically this was just them saying, here's some new stuff we want to tell you about. Here's some new information. And so this would be where you could kind of give a mini lesson, provide some new content to your students, talk about the various things that you want them to learn about. And then after they had spent several slides and a number of minutes talking this new content, they brought us to a thinking strategy. So again, this is a way to give the students some processing time. And in this case, they used a compass points feedback. They took a little bit of time to talk about what this was, and it's okay. So of the things that we just talked about, what you just learned about, what do you need to know? What do you find exciting? What is your current stance on this or suggestion? Or what do you find worrisome? The exact way that you do the prompts for this type of reflection activity, there's lots of different options. This is just one of them. But the way that they approach this one is they created a Google Sheets file, and they posted the same prompts across the top of this Google Sheets. And then the participants could type in their questions or their thoughts or their responses to those prompts as they were given a little bit of time to do that processing. So again, another great little strategy where you just provide that link right here on the slide deck that jumps them over to another file where they have those editing rights. And again, as the teacher, while this is happening, you can watch this and you can literally watch the spaces being filled in. And there's lots of different ways to do this as well. You could even create a space for each individual student if you wanted to, or have them type their name and then type something else next to it. So a great little way to reflect on what we had just learned in that new content. Following that, they just gave us some updates and reminders. This might be talk about, here's what's coming up in your asynchronous activities for this week. Remember these deadlines, remember this timeline, whatever that reflection might be, and a quick closure to wrap up the meeting. So super simple approach, just using slides, but having that interactive element, making sure that there's a really clear expectation anytime you are sending students into like a small group activity, or even while you're still all together in Blackboard, but you're giving them this strategy that they're going to work on right now. They stay connected. That doesn't mean people need to be talking in the session right then. The teacher can be quiet. All the students are busy doing something. We're just, giving them time to do it. But we're connected. We're synchronous. but the students still have time to do some thinking and learning activities that are slightly independent. So I hope that adds just a few little tools and tricks that you can consider as you're starting to figure out different ways to organize your synchronous class sessions. Thanks.